Hey, what's going on, everybody? You already know it's Thursday night, 6 p.m. It's the NFL Pick'em Show. My name is Paul Spencer. Of course, I'm always with the man himself, Dan Connor. What's going on, Dan?
What's going on? One step closer to regular season. Um, so my team's got a couple injuries, but whatever. It's preseason, so we'll. But we're close. We're one step closer, 1 week closer to regular season, so it's exciting.
Yeah, Dan, we've been going around the divisions here, of course, every week. We pick two divisions, AFC versus NFC here. So we have four divisions left, Dan. And tonight we're going to talk about the NFC West and, of course, the AFC West. Two Super Bowl teams were there last year. Not the best divisions in football, Dan, but the two best teams in both conferences were from these, divisions here. So how about we jump right into this, Dan? Let's talk about this NFC West. We're going to go from bottom to the top. So we know who that is, the Arizona Cardinals, Dan.
Yep.
So we'll start
the
there.
Fourth pick this year.
Yeah, well, you know what? They hit on it because Marvin Harrison Jr., Dan, I know him basically personally because I watched him grow up from, St. Joe's Prep, 8th grade, where he played. And I've watched him for 4 years, of course, even traveled to watch him back down in Philadelphia a couple times when I moved up here. But speaking of that, Dan, how do you feel this team? Do you think that's going to be the upgrade that they need? I think, Dan, they have holes
It's definitely an upgrade they need, big time. And if Murray could stay healthy, I think it's a good weapon for him. It's definitely a big upgrade for their offense.
I agree.
I like Connor running back, but if Murray could stay healthy and can get some rapport with Harrison, that's a really good addition for them.
Yeah, the key.
He's always hyped up to be. I mean, I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the key, like you said, is Kyler Murray staying healthy, Dan, coming back from, remember how people were saying like he can't read a playbook. He doesn't want to read the playbook. He'd rather play video games, what have you. But if he stays healthy, Dan, he is a quarterback that's mobile. He has a great arm too. And the speed that he has on his legs are insane. But you mentioned James Conner. Dan, the other guy that they have is Trey Benson.
Yeah.
Nice running back. That's a 1-2 punch, Dan, right there.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. I think that like they were able to run the ball effectively. I think when Murray came back, I think he came back at some point last year. He did well.
Yeah, he looked different. Mm-hmm.
So I think that Kyler Murray just needs to mature a little more. If he could be more mature this year, and be more focused, I think he'll be solid with Marvin Harrison.
I like their offense, and I really do. Kyler Murray, James Conner, Harrison, of course. I think he was one of the best route runners I've ever seen in a long time. Plus, I think it was 4 drop balls in 2 years, Dan, at Ohio State. Yeah. So we know he's a great ball catcher. His dad is, Hall of Fame, of course. But my thing is, they picked up Zay Jones this year, Dan. From a wide receiver standpoint. Mm-hmm. Do you think he beats out Michael Wilson? Because I think Zay Jones could be that one receiver with Marvin Harrison.
Maybe. I think Zay Jones has talent. Mm-hmm. I think that possibly, yes.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. They have their offensive line is okay, Dan. I still want to yet to be determined on that, too. Looking at it, I love Paris Johnson, at left tackle. He's a standout player, of course. But you go to the other side of the ball there, Dan, the other side of the line of scrimmage. Jonah Williams, Will Hernandez.
Will Hernandez, former Giant.
Yes, that's what I mean. Talk about that, Dan.
He had a good first year for us, but then he was like a turnstile his last couple of years with us. So, and Jonah Williams, he doesn't he have I thought he got hurt.
He was hurt. That's what I mean.
A year or so ago, but I think if they could play well, but Will Hernandez I don't trust, but I'm a little biased because he wasn't good for us the past couple of years for the Giants.
Well, that's the reason why I flipped it over to that right side because I know he played there with you guys there, and I was waiting for that word, Dan, that turnstile. That turnstile.
Just for whatever reason, he just fell off. I can't really say why.
Mm-hmm. They do have a nice tight end too. Terry McBride's okay. Elijah Higgins is pretty good. He's a big, solid, tight end. I like that pickup there too. I think offensively, Dan, they'll be okay, but it's going to fall.
Defensively, I don't know. They have Xavier Collins. Mm-hmm. Defensively, I think defense will probably be their weak point, but they have Buda Baker. I think their offense will be good, but I don't know about their defense.
I agree, Dan.
I really can't say.
Well, you remember last year, how Buda Baker was on the trading block for almost really the entire season. You know what I mean? and they ended up keeping him, which is he's a staple point of their defense, of course, playing safety. But I agree, Dan. That defense to me is it's suspicious to me. I mean, at linebacker you have Kaiser White. He played for the Eagles for a little bit, a Charger,
Yeah.
so he's okay, Dan. But other than that, really, you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, what names do we have here besides Kaiser White and Buda Baker?
No, they don't have much really, to be honest, or
No,
much to write home about, I should say.
exactly. I mean, they're not name wise defense, but I, I I think it's still going to be a lottery pick for them, Dan. I can't see them going from their ranking last year, just because Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think he's going to be that great. He's going to be a weapon, Dan, but he's not going to push you over the top to win games because this
Yeah.
defense will give up points, Dan.
Yes, they will.
Yep. What we didn't look at the schedule, Dan, but what do you think this team's going to be next year?
I am not 100% sure. The schedule, let's see, they play Buffalo to start.
Oh, good. Well, Buffalo's on the downfall a little bit
The
too.
Rams, the Lions, Washington, San Francisco, Green Bay.
Oh boy,
They're
that
going to be under.
division,
I think they'll be under 500.
yeah.
LA, the Chargers, which they were bad last year. Miami,
Oh, good. Jeez.
Chicago, the Jets.
Oh my God.
That's a rough first half
Oh,
of the schedule. Then they have their bye.
wait, that was just the first half, Dan?
That's the first half, yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, we're just going to call it right now. We're going to call lottery pick top 3 again. You went 4 last year. You're going to be top 3 this year.
Yeah,
Oh my
Buffalo,
God.
Detroit. I think Washington would be better. The
Yeah.
49ers, the Packers, Miami, Chicago have a good offense, and the Jets. And then Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Carolina, Los Angeles, and San Fran. That's a rough schedule, I think.
Dan, just by hearing what you said, I think they got 2 wins. Maybe they could beat Buffalo by surprising people because everything's vanilla in
That's a
week
rough
1.
schedule, man.
And maybe Carolina. That's the only 2 games I think I heard, Dan, that possibly could be wins for them. Oh
They'll
my
have to
God.
get out of the first part of the schedule like close to 500 if they want a shot, but that's tough.
That's the teams that you named, Dan.
What
I mean,
about
I think,
playoff teams in there?
yeah, you have playoff teams in there other than, Chicago, but Chicago's got weapons now.
They all have
Caleb,
good
Rome,
offense.
yeah,
And if their
DeAndre Swift.
defense isn't good, that
Mhm.
doesn't spell good news for the Cardinals. I think that game will be like a good offensive game for both teams. Then they play
I
the
think so
Bears.
too. I just thought about that. I push forward to that game, Dan. Two defenses are suspicious, but offensively, oh my God, they're weapons. You know what I mean? I think that would be a great game. That might be like a 40 burner for both sides. But I think it's a lottery pick for them, Dan. I'm going to give them. You know what? I'll give them 3 wins right now, Dan, based on the schedule that you said.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a rough
God.
schedule.
That's scary, Dan. Really, I mean, you come from that kind of team. Last year, you get a lottery pick, Marvin Harrison, and the crazy thing is, Dan, Marvin Harrison only lost 2 games in high school out of 4 years total. He goes to Ohio
Yeah.
State. He lost 2 games in 3 years. Dan, that's
Yep.
insane, and you're going to lose 4 or 5 games in the first 5 weeks, Dan, in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's insane. I just hope he keeps his head on straight. I really do, because he's a hell of a player. But Dan, let's move on to this other team here. Let's talk about this team here, Seattle Seahawks, Dan. Weapon-wise, Dan, I don't get it. I know Geno Smith is up and down, Dan, but on paper, this team, I think, has the best 3 wide receivers, 1, 2, 3 as a package, Dan. And a running back, Kenneth
Absolutely.
Walker, Charbonnet. And Charbonnet
Yeah.
and Walker.
They have great weapons now. Well, Geno Smith staying healthy is key, but they have Sam Howell. I'm interested to see if Geno doesn't do well if he plays for them. I don't think their offensive line is bad, but they have Charles Cross and Fant. I think their
Mhm.
offense is really good.
Exactly.
And they have a new head coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you know what I think? I think Sam Howell is knocking on the door to be QB1. The reason why I say that, I think he
Maybe.
fits this scheme better because you look back at Washington, Dan, he threw that ball downfield a lot, Dan. He pushed that
Yeah.
ball, downfield constantly. And Geno Smith does do that, Dan, but he makes bonehead decisions. He underthrows balls. And when you have DJ Metcalf out there running a streak route, just throw the ball out to him. That's what Sam Howell can do, Dan. I think he might take over the spot. Would you put Geno on a leash with Sam Howell?
I would put Geno on leash just because he's inconsistent sometimes.
Hmm.
But I think him staying healthy is key. But I think you can see Sam Howell play if Geno Smith struggles. But they have a really good weapons and good offense.
Hmm.
Good run game. Good tight end. Like their
Yeah.
offensive line is not bad. So I think But how far are you going to go with Geno Smith?
Well,
I'm not saying Sam Howell is better, but
right,
how
right.
far are you going to go with Geno Smith? I
Well,
think he reached his ceiling a couple of years ago. That's probably the best
and
we'll see from him.
and that's right when he got paid too. I mean, he got that big
Yep.
contract right after that year. Came out, lit everything on fire. Basically, what from when they moved on from Russell Wilson, they brought in Geno as a backup, of course. But when he got his time, Dan, he did play good. But are we talking like a Milli Vanilli thing, a one hit wonder here? Is that what you think he is too? I kind of think
Maybe
he's
maybe
already
a
hit his
little
ceiling.
more,
Ooh,
maybe a little more, but
okay,
I'm interested to see how far they go with Geno Smith.
right.
Because he's inconsistent. I think. I
Mhm.
mean, I think he's solid. I think he's above average. With this team, they should be able to do a lot on offense.
I
I think
agree.
you're
I
going
mean,
to see him struggle for how to play, but I could see how playing at some point.
I
It's
do too.
possible.
I think if Gino, if they come out of the gate stand and don't, play offense the way they should be with this team, this caliber of a team, I think he's on a short leash, Dan. And I think you're going to be hearing a lot of Sam Howell. We want Sam right away.
Yeah.
I think so. Eileen checking in. Hey, Eileen, how you doing? We have another comment.
Oh, things will
Insane.
be good.
Paul, the Eagles fan, and Danny, the Cowboys fan. Danny, the Dallas fan. Wow.
Yeah, whatever.
I think that's a little dyslexic, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's messed up.
It is. I mean, that's like
It's offensive.
that is very offensive, Dan. That really, I take it offensive too.
I don't know if I want to watch the Eagles game. I don't want to see Barkley in the Eagles jersey.
Oh, come on, Dan. You got to face your fears, man. You got to face your fears, okay?
Dexter Lawrence throttles him and
Yeah,
burns.
yeah. Okay, offensively, Dan, they are going to be good. Okay, defensively, this isn't the Legion of Boom anymore, Dan. You know what I mean? This is not.
No, it's not.
But they did pick up, some nice guys, Dan. Of course, last year they got Leonard Williams, of course. Now, this year they got Jonathan Hankins from the Dallas Cowboys. He is a big body guy that can play nose tackle.
I
I
like
think he'll be
Jonathan
a,
Hankins.
I do
Former
too. I
Giant
was pissed.
also.
Yeah, I was pissed that the Cowboys let him go.
And
But
they have Leonard Williams.
exactly. I think the front four is going to be good with the three play at 3-4. The front three will be good, Dan.
Owusu.
Yep.
He
Mm-hmm.
took I think, Julian Love is a good safety.
Yeah, he's from your team. Yep, the former
Yep.
Notre Dame. Mm-hmm.
I do like Woolen, that linebacker they have. So I think their defense will be solid. I don't think it'll be amazing, but I think their front will be good.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's my thing to you, Dan. Now, I was looking at it earlier, and I wrote something down that I want to ask you about. Devin Witherspoon. We know he's a top corner. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
why are they pushing him off the corner and putting him in nickel and want to be playing? I heard rumors that they want to put him at safety. But why would you do that? Why would you put him at safety when he's a ball hawk?
No, they have him in nickelback at the moment.
Yeah, and I heard rumors today they haven't been nickel playing that back there, but I heard rumors too that they might move him to safety with a Julian Love because Trey Brown is playing really great in preseason and camp. But
Yeah.
when you have Devin Witherspoon, Dan, you went out and got him high in the draft, and he was worthy of that. But I don't know why they would do that.
Maybe they're just trying to see if he could play a different position, but I would want to play him at corner.
I would too. I mean, last year he looked good as a rookie, Dan. He really did.
I want to play him at corner, but maybe they're just working him in, and eventually I think he'll play a lot.
I agree. I don't know if Barkley is an Eagle. I'm not sure if he's an Eagle, as Insane asked. I'm not sure where he went. I don't know where he went, honestly. But, hey.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
sure
right.
He doesn't know.
All right, Dan, what do you think this Seattle team's going to be? I mean, last year they missed the playoffs with this, high-powered offense. Defense is mediocre, I want to say, but D-line, they got better. How do you think they're a playoff team in this division? They're definitely better than the Cardinals.
I think they can be a playoff team.
Okay.
I think they can be, but it's still a very tough division.
Yeah, I mean, you're three-team heavy here. You got, the Niners, the Rams, of course.
Well, I think so. I think they can make the playoffs. If they stay healthy and play well, I think that it's possible. I don't see why not.
What do you think the biggest key is? Is it going to be Geno Smith?
Yes. I
Okay.
think I think he needs to stay healthy, and their defense needs to play well.
Yeah, I'm going to push to the D side there, Dan, because I mean, offensively,
Their
I think
offense should be okay.
yeah, even if you put Sam Howell in there, Dan, I think they can put up points regardless of who you play and who's a quarterback because this offense is stout, top to bottom. It's elite with the weapons they have at running back, tight end, and wide receiver. But that defense, that back end of the defense and the linebacker play, that's where I'm going to see a little issue. So, I mean, you can outscore teams, Dan, but you're going to give up a lot of points too, you know?
Yeah,
All right, well, let's move on to the Rams here, Dan. Last year, Dan, this team there was a lot of injuries on this team last year, Dan. A lot.
there was a lot of injuries,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they still went 10-7
Made the playoffs,
and
exactly.
made the
Made the playoffs.
playoffs.
Mhm. And you remember their number one wide receiver was hurt. Paku was hurt for a lot of the season too, Dan. You
Yep.
know, and he's coming back healthy as well. How do you see this team, going into this year?
Yeah, Cooper Cup has to stay healthy, obviously. I think they'll be a good team.
I think they will. I mean, Dan,
I think
you
their
went out
offense
and
will
got
be good.
you went out and got Blake Corum too. We know him about Michigan. A great runner too inside the tackles as well. He's an up and down runner. You have Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. He blew everybody out of the water last year. Dan, he surprised me. Cooper Cup, Pacquiao, Demarcus Robinson they have this year. Higbee's a great offensive side as well. I think they're okay on offense, Dan. But you lost
How's their
Aaron
defense?
Donald. You lost Aaron Donald.
Yeah, it's a big loss for their defense.
Huge,
It's a
huge.
huge loss. I mean, you're not gonna replace him, and
Right.
Bobby Brown the third is in his place. That's who's playing his position now.
Bobby Brown. I wonder if he's going to say it's my
You have
prerogative, or
Braden Fisk. You have Kobe Turner.
But they did get Jared Verse.
They got Jared Verse, yes,
I mean,
which is a really good pick, I think.
that's a huge
Um,
pickup. That's huge. Mm-hmm.
I don't think their front is going to be what it was.
I don't
Obviously, you
think
lose
so.
someone like Donald, it's not gonna be the same at all.
Yeah,
Um, I don't
agree.
know about Fisk and Turner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I think their linebackers will be good.
I agree. I like the linebackers. I like Byron Young. I've seen him play a little
I
bit.
like
He's pretty good.
Tre'Davious White, a
Yes,
corner.
he's good. He's a big pickup, coming from Buffalo. I think he's solid as well. Cameron Curl's coming over. He's a great player too. I don't know, Dan. This defense is a little on the back end, kind of scares me. But the biggest thing is that front three up front. You lose
Yeah,
Aaron Donald. You know he had to demand the center and a guard, whichever way he pulls. That was a double team there, and that's a huge. I mean, I feel bad for Bobby Brown the third because God, man, you're replacing a legend, a first round Hall of Famer, and
yep.
Aaron Donald, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. My God, could have
But it
been
was
more.
tough. It was tough to run on the Rams inside. Now
Right?
you got three teams that can run the ball: the Cardinals, the
Yes.
49ers, and the Seahawks can all run the ball.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's got to be my strategy versus them. I want to run the ball on the Rams.
Exactly. That's what I would do too, Dana. Especially with the Niners, of course, McCaffrey. And even with Seattle, they have that 1-2 punch. Of
Yep.
course, I'm going to run it right right at Bobby Brown. Because it's my prerogative. His song before. I'm running right at him until he shows me that he can stop me, and I don't think he can because Dan, I hate to say it, there's only one Aaron Donald in this world, Dan, and
Yeah,
he's retired.
I think Seattle is a little bit more up front than the Rams do.
Agree. Yes, I agree with that one too. Mm-hmm. Insane says Seattle goes 10-7. I can see that too. I could probably give him 11 wins, honestly, because it really depends on Gino and that defense a little bit. To me, I think they have the weapons to, go positive. I think it's 10-7, maybe 11-6 to me.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you think with this team, Dan? I mean, where does it fall along with this team here? I mean, their backup. Listen, Stetson Bennett looked like trash. He threw 4 picks against the Dallas
Oh
Cowboys,
God,
3rd and 14.
Yeah, Garoppolo's their backup. He's
He's
suspended,
suspended. What is it, like 6 games or something, right?
something like that.
So,
Bennett isn't. If Stafford goes down, I think they're in trouble unless Garoppolo can play well. But if Stafford goes down, that's not good for the Rams. I think.
I agree. I mean, Garoppolo isn't saying much either, Dan. I mean, he's been a journeyman everywhere he went. He gets beat out constantly, and hell, Devontae Adams wanted to kill him last year, with watching did you see that thing called quarterbacks or receivers? Did you watch that?
A little bit, yeah.
I seen Devontae Adams say, like, man, I really can't stand this dude. He sucks that bad. talking about Jimmy Garoppolo for a while. But yeah, I think if Stafford goes down, man, it could be a long year, Dan. It really could.
Yeah, and their
You
schedules what the Lions, the Cardinals, San Francisco, the Bears, Green Bay, bye week, Vegas, the Raiders, Minnesota, Seattle, Miami, New England, the Eagles, the
Oh,
Saints, the
wow.
Bills, the 49ers, the Jets, the Cardinals, and Seattle. Their schedule is not that easy.
The NFC West has a tough schedule. They're out of conference games, Dan. They have a tough schedule this year. They really do.
Yeah, Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay,
Wow.
Minnesota, Miami, the Eagles, the
Hmm.
Jets, Buffalo. Those are all tough out of conference. Yeah, those are all
Yeah, yeah.
tough out of conference games,
And then your division's not really, much any
or
better,
out of
Dan.
division, I should say.
Yeah, well, even in division, you're going to play three strong teams no matter what. And Dan, we seen it last year, man. That Cardinal team, going back to them real quick, that Cardinal team beat the Cowboys last year. You
Yep.
know, beat them like I'm not talking beat Dan. I'm talking put an ass whipping. Right away. It came out 28-0 or 24-0 in the first half on Dallas. So you're playing wounded. You're a wounded animal. You don't ask for much. So come out and play. If you win, you win. You lose, oh well. We're predicted to lose. So
But I
you
think
know.
the Rams could end up third in the division, possibly second or third. I don't think they'll be last, but it's possible.
So you think you would have the Rams over Seattle or Seattle over the Rams, as you're saying?
I'm gonna put Seattle over the Rams, but
I
just
I kind of agree with you. I
it's
actually have
just
Seattle
by like a
too.
game or so, not by
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. I have Seattle ranked two in the division. I have them beating out the Rams. It could be close, Dan. It really could because Cooper Cup is that main guy. If he comes back healthy as Cooper Cup of 2 years ago, I think he would be great. But Stafford, man, he's got to stay healthy. I know last year he had that finger injury where he missed a
He's
couple of
got to
games
stay
last year.
healthy. Like
He
that's
has to.
if he goes down, I think they're in trouble.
Hmm. And I think this division is more quarterback, division because
Yeah,
if Stafford goes down, even Geno Smith. But I give credit to the Seattle team. At least they have Sam Howell.
I think picking up Sam Howell was a smart move for them.
It definitely was. I mean, you got rid of Drew Lock. You bring in Sam Howell. I think it's. I would actually prefer Sam Howell. Honestly, I would.
I think he's better than Drew Lock, and he played the whole season
Where did Drew Lock
almost.
go? Where did he go?
Giants, and he got hurt.
Exactly right. Right. All right. So, what do you think of division? What do you think of record wise, Dan? I mean, we talked about the top, the bottom three here. Where do you see Seattle? How many wins do you give them based on the schedule that you said? A juggernaut too schedule.
11-5, 11-6.
Okay. 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 And Rams, you said it's right below them, probably around
I
10.
think the Rams would be 10-7.
So I said, okay. I think so. I agree with that one too. I think the Rams might be like a nine win team because
Maybe.
I got to see what that defense looks like. Dan Aaron Donald, man, you avoid him. You run outside. Now I think it's a game plan to run where he's not, right in the middle. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. All right, Dan. Let's talk about the team that we don't like. I mean, this team is just so good. The San Francisco 49ers, Dan, lost in the Super Bowl last year. Oh, Dan. I mean, first let's talk about one thing. Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Where's he going, Dan? I mean, I heard, yesterday I talked to a reporter that I know from the Steelers. He said it's not a signed deal. The deal is on the table. It's already there. All they have to do is just pick up the call and say, we accept. Ayuk signs it. It's a done deal. He's a Steeler. Now, today I hear San Francisco says the deal's in place to keep him long term. Contract is not available for the media, whatever, but he don't want to sign it, Dan. What the hell's going on with Ayuk?
Why doesn't he want to sign it? I don't
I
understand.
don't
I don't
know.
get it.
Well, I heard this is
Does
what
he
I heard.
feel
The
he's a
rumor.
number one wide receiver or something?
Okay, well, is he better than Debo? I don't think he is.
No, but he had
Hell of a year.
1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. It's
That's what I
pretty
mean.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this because, Dan, here's the thing. Last year, when Debo was out of the game, they looked totally different. We've seen that. When McCaffrey was out of the game, they were totally different. When Ayuk was out of the couple of games, they looked different. They are a team that needs every one of their weapons to manipulate their offense on
Oh,
anyone else.
absolutely. Like if McCaffrey goes out, if Samuel
Exactly.
goes down, if Kittle goes down,
Mhm.
it changes their their
The whole
entire
dynamic.
offense.
Yeah, the whole dynamic changes, definitely.
Staying
But
healthy is obviously key, but I don't know why he won't sign. It's probably a good deal.
mhm,
Um, and Samuel wasn't better than he was last year. So
that's
he
very
was
true.
basically their number one guy last year.
Yeah, I mean, he had the numbers to back it up, but I think as a wide receiver, because you really don't see Ayuk in the backfield as much as Debo. Debo brings that
No,
extra,
Debo's more
added
like use
a
it to
dual threat,
run
like a
the
dual threat.
ball, on the
Yeah,
screens. Ayuk is just a traditional wide receiver.
yeah, agree,
So
agree. Now, what I heard is he's looking at between $30 million and upward is what he wants. Now, I didn't see the numbers what Pittsburgh offered. Excuse me. I think they were in the 25 to 28 million a year. That's what
a
they
lot of
were.
money, man.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but you think he's holding out because he wants that, top five money in the wide receiver unit?
It's
1,300 yards, Dan. That's great.
it's possible, but if you're getting paid 27, 28 million, that's pretty outstanding. I don't think you really need to hold out for $1 million or $2 million. I think it's plenty of money.
Yeah, but Dan, the NFL, man. If we got
Yep.
$1 million, we'd be there, at 3 hours before our work started. But these guys make 30 million, and it's not
Well,
enough
to
for
see
them.
with
They can't
Barkley,
beat
if
up
we
them.
offered him another $1 million a year, he probably
Mhm.
might have signed with us instead.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you can't live off $30 million a year, then well, I don't know what the hell you're doing in your life because I'm never going to be there. I tell you that. But this offensive side of the ball, Dan, they're loaded, man. Brock
But
Purdy.
I think who they're gonna replace Ayuk with?
That's a great question. I mean, who
You
could
know,
you? Who
like
could you?
like that's the thing. I think they kind of need him, to be honest.
I mean, if you think about that, if Ayuk leaves, Dan, okay, then you have Debo being the number one. You have Juwan Jennings, was played okay last year. Good, solid wide receiver.
Yeah,
He moves up. But do you think about it? You have Chris Connolly from the Commanders before. He's a guy, he's not a Brandon Ayuk size wise, speed wise, talent
he's
wise.
not as good as Ayuk is.
Right. And you got really some rookies, Dan. Well, you know what? Let's talk about Robbie Chosen, the chosen one. He's nothing to write home about either, Dan.
Yeah,
So,
I think they need to sign him regardless. I mean, that's the going rate for wide receiver these days. Unfortunately,
yeah.
that's the way it is.
I agree. You have to sign him. This tells me, Dan, if you don't make the deal now because you have the money to sign him,
Yeah,
because, well, you know what, Dan? I look at it this way: if you have to sign Brock Purdy coming up next year or the year after, he's going to be a $60 million quarterback. Hate saying it,
exactly.
but but the window is now, Dan. The window is now. It's called win now. Go out and sign him, and then see what Brock Purdy is about. Saying, hey, listen, this is what we can give you. We can't give you the top of the chain money here. We can give you 55. We could do that. But win now because you need Ayuk on this team to get back to the promised land. Dan, you have to.
I think so because it's a loaded roster on offense.
It's huge. Yeah,
And you're actually downgrading without Ayuk.
of course. And it's worth the money. I mean, he was not even top 12, top 15 in the NFL last year, money wise. And he put up, top five numbers, Dan, in the NFL.
Yeah,
When you have a weapon like Debo, too, and a Kittle, he put up the numbers. He deserves the money. Pay the guy. Pay him.
exactly.
Pay him.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's go to the defense side of the ball, Dan. I mean, this defense is stacked, too. I mean, I thought they could have won the Super Bowl, except for, Greenlaw going down. Dan, that was like just the biggest letdown I've ever seen. When he goes down, it looked like the defense just said, oh, shit. What do we do now, Dan?
Yeah, like it was totally different when he left the game. It's unfortunate.
Right.
It wasn't even a contact thing. He was just
Mm-hmm.
going to the sideline.
Yeah, he was jumping
But
up, ready to go out and play. Yeah.
yeah, but with Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Hargrave, Bosa, Greenlaw, Warner, their
Mm-hmm.
defense is really good. Like their
It
defense is
definitely
going to
is.
be outstanding again. I don't see any problem with it, to be honest.
I don't either.
And that's the thing about the 49ers is it's a favorite to win the Super Bowl because they're loaded on both sides.
They are. They are.
They're a complete football team.
I agree 100%. I think they're loaded on both sides of the ball here. I'm kind of curious to see how Greenlaw comes back, but we know the type athlete he is, Dan. He keeps his body in shape. He's one of the
Yeah,
top linebackers in the NFL. I have no disregards how he'll come back. I think he's going to be solid. And you really didn't lose anybody, Dan. You stayed solid. You're one of the teams that stayed at 11 on offense, if IU comes back. And on defense, you stayed 11 top two. So I think they are, the contender for most likely going to be the NFC, conference championship again. Honestly,
Yeah, I agree with that.
on paper, yeah, on paper. What kind of wins do you think they have, Dan?
Let's see. The schedule is the Jets,
Oh,
Minnesota, LA,
okay,
Rams,
okay, okay.
New England, Arizona, Seattle,
5, 6. Okay.
Kansas City,
Wow. Okay.
Dallas, Tampa, Seattle, Green Bay, Buffalo, Chicago, the
Hmm.
Rams again, Miami, Detroit, and Arizona. That's
Damn. Wow. Man. I
Seattle,
wonder.
Dallas, the Jets,
Kansas City
Seattle, Green
too.
Bay, Buffalo.
Miami.
They're tough games. Miami, Detroit.
Green Bay solid too. I mean, man, Dan, I don't know. I'll probably, what, based on that schedule, I mean, it's still preseason. Ayuk is the key here, the X factor. If they get him back, that's a couple wins there on any team. I'm probably still going to put them at 12-5, Dan. That defense is just so nasty that they can compete any game. I got to go 12-5.
I say 13-4.
13-4. Okay. Insane actually agrees with you. He's going to go Niners 13-4, Seattle 10-7, Rams 9-7, 9-8, and the Cards 7-10. I don't know about that 7-10 for the Cardinals though.
We'll see. They'll have to steal some games, and their defense got to be good, but I think they'll have a better season.
Kyler Murray better be on his ball to play some NFC Pro Bowl caliber this time, Dan, because man, that is God. They're going to need him with that. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. All right, Dan. Let's flip it over to the AFC here, Dan. God, man. I mean, Super Bowl champs once again. This division, Dan. Do you think it's okay for me to say it's a one-sided race every year?
It's probably going to be. Like
You think so?
I don't see anyone really being close to Kansas City, to be honest.
Okay. Here's something real quick. Insane says the Patriots 2-15 or 1-16. So are we? I mean, is Insane just telling us right now that whoever's coming out next year, number one, that's where he's going? They're getting the number one pick. Are they that bad, Dan? I mean, we already did this team, but do you think they're that bad, Dan?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes, I do.
Oh boy! All right, Dan. Let's flip it over to the AFC here. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos, or as Ken Fry calls them, the Ponies. Dan, they went out and got a new quarterback. They have Bo Nix. How do you feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know how he's going to do, to be honest.
Dan, he looked good in preseason. He looked pretty damn good.
I think it's a good pick. But I think he's going to struggle his rookie year. But I think it's a good pick for them. It's better than what they had, I think.
Okay, here's my question, Dan, to you. Okay, this team was so lackluster last year. It was like a fire sale. They got rid of so many players, of course. Sean Payton's the QB, the coach here. So he's thinking like, okay, we went out and got Bo Nix. He fits my scheme a lot better. But Dan, we talked about other quarterbacks in the division on other teams. Dan, if he goes down, it is Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, if he goes down, they're done.
Here's what I want to ask you. If he goes out, and let's just say he goes 1-5, 1-6 to open, 1-7 to open the front half of the season here. Okay. Do you pull him or you just let him play it out, learn by fire, get in there and just play games? What do you do with Bo Nix?
I'd let him just play, to be honest.
So
because you're not going to make the playoffs.
Right.
You're not going to challenge for the division. I would just let him play the whole season.
I agree 100%. I agree. I think you have to play him. You went out and got your guy. You got your guy Bo Nix. He's been in college for 6 years, Dan. So he's mentally there. He played it. The SEC, of course, going to the Pac-12, which is now the Pac-2. But he's earned his right to be there. But Dan, Javonte Williams, Sam Pirone's a good running back. Okay,
yeah,
I like their third back, Audric Estime. You know how I feel about him from Notre Dame. Solid big back, Jerome Bettis 2.0. But Cortland Sutherland, Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is good, Dan. Marvin Mims is good.
Mims is good. I like him.
Josh Reynolds from Detroit picked up him. Tight end, we have Aiden. What is his name? Adam Trotman. Don't know much about him though. Don't know much about him. I thought Greg Dudich would actually win the role there.
Yeah, was he from He was drafted like a year or so, a couple years
Mhm,
ago.
mhm. He had a good year last year. I thought he would be the starter, but they're projecting Adam to be the starter there. But offensive line, Dan. I mean, I don't know. Mike McGlinchey is the biggest name at right tackle, wrong side to blind side here. But
Yeah,
how do you see this team offensively, Dan?
I think they'll be all right, but I don't think they'll be very good.
I think,
To
yeah,
be
I think
honest,
mediocre, if that, honestly. You know. Yep. All right, we'll move on to the defense side of the ball here. What do you think defensively? Now, they just got rid of their best corner, the high-priced free agent, what's his name, Simmons. He just got signed to Atlanta this year for $7.5 million
oh yeah, that's
today.
right. Yep.
Yep, he just got signed today. So they lost him, of course. But Dan, where do
Is
you start on this
Surtain
defense?
still?
Surtain is there actually. Patrick Surtain, yeah, he's a left corner. He's solid. But oh man, Dan, I mean, what else can you really talk about here? I mean,
Nothing really, to be
nothing at
honest.
all. Exactly. There's really
No, they don't
nothing
have
to
much
write
at
home.
all, to be honest.
No, I think defense side of the ball, you're probably the worst maybe in the NFL right now with this lineup that you have. I mean, you go out and get Cody Barton from the Commanders, who's basically on his last leg, and he's going to play your right side inside linebacker. That's man, I don't pick your poison. You want to run against them or you want to throw against them. You know?
Yeah,
Wow.
I agree. And their schedule is Seattle, Pittsburgh, Tampa, the Jets, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Saints, the Panthers,
Oh
Baltimore,
boy. Oh
Kansas City,
boy.
Atlanta, Vegas again, Cleveland, the Colts, the Chargers, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. That's their schedule.
Well, they might be fighting Insane's Patriots for the top pick next year, Dan. Honestly, I mean,
Maybe. They're not going to get more than 4 wins.
yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be
Because
4 wins.
Carolina,
Honestly,
I don't know how they're going to be. The Chargers will beat them.
I agree. I agree. Mhm. Yeah, that's
Every
wow.
team they play is pretty much better than they are.
I agree, 100%. I agree with that one too. That's man, wow.
It's a
Dan,
rough
we talk
schedule.
we talk about our teams, Dan, and we're like, oh, we suck, man. We can't do this. But then, Dan, it makes me happy because when we do this division, breakdown, it makes me actually happy, Dan, because some of these teams really do suck
Some of
really
them are going to
bad.
be pretty bad this year.
Exactly, right? We're pissed off we get 10 wins in our division, and these guys are hoping for maybe 3 or 4, Dan, and we're putting
Yeah,
them that's hot.
but
That's
for
high
the
to them.
Broncos, you want to develop Bo Nix. I think that's probably your goal this season.
I
See
agree.
if you have something with him.
Yeah, no matter what, I'm going to play him all throughout the season, Dan, unless it's like
Yeah,
an
why not?
injury or the flawless injury or something. Because man, listen, you have nothing to play for here. You just go out and play, learn the offense, set it up for next year, Dan. Go out, don't do what Carolina did, give away your assets, get the quarterback, give away everybody. Go out and get him weapons because we know Peyton, Dan. He can actually coach some games. He's an
Yeah,
offensive guy. Get him the weapons. Find out where your quarterback's made. You know what? Hey, if he's not what we thought he was, we're going to be a top 3 draft pick next year.
yep,
Maybe we can, hey, take the other shot because we're still in hell. We really are. You know what I mean? So because they're still paying for Russell Wilson, Dan. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
Even
know.
with draft
Yep,
picks too. So
yep,
it kind of sucks. Yeah. All right, let's move on, Dan. Let's go to the Chargers real quick here. New head coach, Mr. Jimmy Harbaugh is here.
yep.
Now they went out, and had a good draft, Dan. I mean, Justin Herbert's coming off that injury, of course. What is that banner fasciitis or something that he
Yeah.
has? And that's serious, though, Dan. That's serious.
Well, it's rough to play with. You can play with it, but it's not easy.
Agree. So, what do you see? I mean, remember this name, Dan? We talked about this guy last year, Easton Stick. Remember him? We talked about him. He's the backup.
And you have Dugan, but I don't
Yeah,
really like
Max
their
Dugan.
weapon. I don't like their weapons, to be honest. I like Gus Edwards, Joshua Palmer.
I like Lad McConkey from Georgia.
Lad McConkey's good.
He's solid.
I think he's a good pickup. Chark.
Yeah,
Junior,
the one
maybe.
guy I want to ask you about
when their offensive line's good though.
Their offensive line is good, definitely is. But Dan, remember 2 years ago we did the draft and we talked about Quentin Johnson from TCU, that high flying fast wide receiver.
Yep.
Last year he didn't do crap, Dan. Do you think this is his breakout year?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't horrible, but I think he should be your number. I should he should be in your top three. I think.
I think he could battle for number one. I mean, Joshua Palmer, versus Quentin Johnson. I like him there. Lad McConkey is going to be that slot guy. Dan, we see him at Georgia, of course.
Yeah,
He's that Wes Walker type player. Gets open on every play. That kind of guy. DJ Chark as well. But Dan, here's a name that I really like, and I really thought he was going to be something special. I wanted Dallas to take him. Brendan Rice, the son of Jerry Rice.
yeah, yeah, that's a good pickup. Also,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think that
Hmm.
Brendan Rice and Quentin Johnson might be in the top three
I think so too. I watched. I
receivers
watched.
by the end of
Yeah.
the year.
I watched Brendan Rice at USC last year, and his route running was so great. I mean, it was like glimpse of watching his dad on a route tree. He's solid. He makes right reads, and he's a burner downfield too. He definitely has the tools. I hope he gets the shot. Because this is a wide receiver room that's up for grabs. Dan, there is no solid one
Yeah,
A right now. There's not. There's not.
yeah, that's okay. They have good young talent,
Mhm.
and that's not a bad thing. But their offensive line, their tackles are both good.
Mhm.
Zion Johnson's not bad. I mean, their offensive line's going to be good also.
I
They'll be
like.
able,
Yeah, I like it. I like their offensive line. I mean, Joe
Joe
Alt was
Alton's
a
a great pick.
solid, solid. Yeah, definitely. We had him going. Top. Dan, we even talked about him. He could possibly go one the way he played. He's solid. He's
He's
a
that good. Yeah,
franchise. But Dan, honestly, I think if he was the left tackle, he would have went a lot higher though. But that right
I
tackle
think
is a little
so.
bit different. Yeah. I think he says the donkeys won't go far. That's why experiment. I agree too. I don't think they go. You have to. It's a learning curve. Let him play.
Yeah,
See
it
what
makes
he's made
sense.
of. See what he is. But running back, Dan, how do you feel about getting Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins? J.K. Dobbins has been hurt every year, Dan.
Yeah, that's the thing about him. If he stays healthy, he's all right. But Gus Edwards is not bad.
No, he's not. He's a solid back. I like
He's
him.
like Singletary. He's like similar to him. He's
Hmm.
similar kind of back, 810 yards,
Agree.
13 touchdowns last year. Probably
Hmm.
used in the red zone a good amount. So I don't think Gus Edwards is a bad pickup at all. And
Okay.
Herbert needs to play well, obviously, to stay healthy. But I think Rice and Quinn and Johnson won't be stuck down the depth chart
Okay.
by
Well,
midseason.
yeah, we talked about this last year, and we talked about a lot of college teams too. Harbaugh coming from Michigan, he likes to run that ball. J.J. McCarthy didn't have to do much. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. You see that here going out against solid back Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins is that speed back if he's healthy. You really don't have the wide receiver, unit, Dan, that Justin Herbert's usually has, the weapons on the outside, the Keenan
Yeah,
Allen type wide receivers. Do you think that we're seeing Jim Harbaugh say, you know what, this is the Chargers here, but we're going to play Los Angeles Wolverines type football. We are going to run, run, run.
I think that's got to be his style. I mean, I don't see why not. That's how he
I think so.
coaches. That's kind
Exactly.
of the type of game plan he has. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I agree.
If they have Herbert and Quentin Johnson comes along and Brendan Rice
Mm-hmm.
comes along, you can probably choose what you want to do depending on the situation. But I think they'll run the ball a lot.
I agree too. I agree too. I think they're going to, try. They're not. This is a team that's never going to abandon run. They're going to be run first, no matter what, and then
Yeah,
see what defense gives you. If they come in the box, then maybe we can get, a Lad McConkey out there, Brendan Rice, a Quentin Johnson deep ball, take the shot downfield because there's not really too much to work with this team. But it's a learning curve, Dan, with Harbaugh. Um, Let's go to the defense side here, Dan. I mean, they do have some players. Joey Bosa, he's usually hurt though. He doesn't play the whole season. Khalil Mack too. I mean, they
yep.
have some solid players.
Derwin James.
He's a solid.
Yeah,
I love Derwin James. I love him. Hmm.
yeah. So I think their defense will be. I don't know if defense will be great, but I think their Bosa will be good. Guys stay healthy, obviously.
Hmm. I mean, Denzel Perryman's a good linebacker too. I like him. I like their corners, Dan. I think they're solid. They're solid on the back end. Asante Samuels is good. Derwin James is safety. He's like a ball hawk, a hitter. I'm okay with that. Christian Fulton coming over. I think he'll be okay. But I'm worried about the other guys other than Bosa. Bosa's going to play that 3-4 linebacking
Yeah,
spot. He
Morgan
does,
Fox,
yeah. And what's his name?
Labonia,
Pudia Ford or something like that.
Puna Ford.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
don't know what I don't know what to expect from the other guys, to be honest.
me either. Me either. I think the downfall is the defense. I mean, both sides I have question marks, but just like Eileen said here, is Herbert healthy? I mean, plantar fasciitis is something serious, though. We did the last week, and Eileen told us that he was in a walking boot. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know because Herbert does get out of the pocket too, Dan. And when you have that kind of
Yeah,
injury, you don't want to, run with plantar fasciitis on any, especially grass turf, Dan. And they
yeah, it's
play
not
on
easy
it
to play with.
right. They play at SoFi, Dan, and that's grass turf, and that's stronger for your injury to be aggressive. Not, our regular turf is actually easier to run on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see. We'll see. Does Herbert have anyone to throw to? No. I mean, he does have wide receivers. Eileen, he has Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnson. We talked about Lad McConkey and Brendan Rice and DJ Chark. He does have the weapons, but there is no. I think Dan. I think the easiest word to say would be wide receiver by committee.
Probably yes.
You know
Whichever one starts to catch on the offense, but
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Quentin John Quentin Johnson, I think, is more talented than Palmer, and I think
Agree.
Brendan Rice will eventually start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't rely on your defense to win you games at all. I mean, this league. I mean, I
Not
agree.
for
This
them, no.
not for them. I mean, they're to me, Dan,
They
they're
have to
like a
score
50-50 team
points.
offense. Yeah. To me, they're 50-50 on offense and defense. I don't know what their offense is, what they have weapons wise. It's wait to see to be determined. Defense side, the front three is going to be this suspicious to me. I don't know what they are. Bosa playing linebacker. You do have Perriman. Mac out there too. Linebackers okay. Safety wise, you're good. Corner wise, you're good. But I think the front four. This is a team you might be to run on a lot, Dan.
Yeah, let's see their schedule. They have Vegas, Carolina,
Okay.
Pittsburgh, Kansas City,
Wow.
Denver, Arizona, the
Okay.
Saints, the Browns, the Titans. Not
Mm.
terrible. Cincinnati, Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa,
Oh.
Denver, New England, and Vegas. That's
Okay. I see 7 wins, Dan. I could possibly see
not
seven. Seven.
terrible.
Yeah, I could see 7, 8 wins here. I could see that. I could see it. And you might be able to steal a game or two. So I'm not going to put them over 5. I'm probably going to put them at a man. I'll probably go
I think they go
not.
8 or 9,
You think 8 or 9? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go
somewhere
round 8.
around there.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably say 7, 8, depending on first week of the season. See how they come out. See how their wide receivers are. See if Herbert can get out of the pocket and get the ball downfield.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think their backup is Easton Stick and Max Dugan.
yeah, if
Exactly.
they had like a better front four, better
Right.
linebackers,
Mhm.
they were gonna have a better defense, I'd give them 10 wins.
I can
But
see
their
that.
defense, I don't know. Their back end is good, but I don't know how they're going to be up front besides Bosa.
Agree. I agree with that too. And the thing is, Dan, with Harbaugh, I will give him a game. If it's a close, if they had a better defense, Dan, I would give him more games because Harbaugh's that type of coach where if he's up 3, Dan, he's just going to move the sticks, run the clock, move the sticks, make the game longer and in his favor. I do
Yep,
like that with the running game that they have, but that defense to me, I think they're going to give up points more than you can score.
I
So
agree
that's
with
why I
that.
see them. That's why I see it. All right, let's talk about the Rams, Dan. I'm sorry, the Raiders here. Kenny Fry's team. Silver and black here. Raiders. How do you see this team, Dan?
Well, Minshew's your quarterback now.
Well, it's still. I
Although
listen to
Connell
Ken.
played well last year, I thought.
He did, and the thing is, I was talking to Ken about this, and what's his name? Antonio Pierce does like Aiden O'Connell. He does like him, but Dan, to me, Aiden O'Connell's okay. But to me, Gardner Minshew just brings a different mentality. He can get out of the pocket. He moves Klein's the pocket. He can throw the deep ball, and he's not afraid to take chances. I mean, I think it's Minshew Mania 2.0 again, Dan.
Yeah, I think, but they have Devontae Adams,
Kobe Myers and Trey
Zamir
Tucker.
White, and Trey Tucker. That's not great, I think,
But Dan,
but
Brock
effective.
Powers and Michael Mayer.
Brock
Brock
Bowers
Powers and
also,
Michael
yes.
Mayer. Michael Mayer too.
This is so weird. They had Mayer and Bowers. I would trade one of them. I would trade Bowers. I would trade Mayer because both of them are going to get. It's going to be one of the. It's going to be Brock Bowers getting all the playing time.
No, you know what? I said this to Ken too. I think that they're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel. I think we're going to see a lot of double tight ends in this game
Yeah,
because Michael Mayer was the best tight end to come out in that draft. He dropped, but Brock Bowers is so incredible. I thought he would probably be Even if he wasn't a tight end, Dan, he could probably go top 5 in the NFL. Oh, where'd Dan go? Oh, all right, Dan will be back in a couple minutes here. He must have hit a different button, but there he is.
Whoops.
What the hell happened, Dan?
I backed out by accident. Whoops.
We're not talking about the Giants, Dan. Just stay with me. We're talking about the Raiders.
But I think Brock Bowers is an excellent pick.
Agree. But
I like Devontae Adams. I don't like their whole wide receiving core though.
no, I don't like their wide receivers. I mean, Jacoby Myers is okay.
Myers and Trey Tucker, It's Devontae Adams, Bowers, and the running back.
Now, here's the thing. I think Zamir White is going to be. If you look at the last 6 games last year, Dan, he led the NFL in yardage the last 6 games at the back half of the season. So I think he's going to be solid.
He's good. That's why I said I think he's solid.
Mm-hmm.
But other than White, Adams, and Bowers,
where do you go? Where do you go with the ball?
I don't think they have much. And how's their offensive line going to be?
Well, Colton Miller. I mean, I heard Ken say the offensive line is okay. It's still a learning progress here, but I don't know, Dan. This offensive line to me is not the stoutest offensive line. I think they can. I think they can give up a lot of pressure to whoever's at quarterback, and this tells me that if Minshew gets the nod, they're going to be moving the pocket out a little bit more because Aiden O'Connell likes to stay in the pocket, and his awareness is a little bit worse off than Minshew. So I want to see how that reacts, but I don't know, Dan. This offensive line and wide receivers are suspicious to me.
Yeah, besides Adams and Bowers, Mayer, I don't know who else they're going to throw the ball to.
That's what I mean.
Effectively.
I mean, Dan, you think about a smart defensive coach. They're going to put a double team safety on top of Devontae Adams, and you're going to have to bring down, a linebacker or another safety to commit to Bowers. And, you got 1 and 2 there. Who's your third guy? And right now it's maybe Jacoby Myers, but that's yet to be determined too, if you think about it.
Maybe.
But, Dan, let's flip this defense. This defense is good, man. This defense is good.
I like it with Crosby. Crosby's really good. Their front is good. Like I said, I think their defense will be solid. Their back end, I don't know how great their back end will be.
I like Trayvon Morgan. Morrig. I like him. He's a solid safety, solid safety. I think he's good, but I want to see how Marcus Epps is going to play along with him. And the corners, Dan. I mean, Jacorian Bennett, of course, and then you have Jack Jones. I don't know much about Jack Jones. I really don't. I haven't seen him play, honestly.
I really don't know, to be honest.
And their linebackers, Dan, are okay. Divine Diablo. Now, the one person that I think, Dan, is going to start this year, probably by week 4. I was very high on this guy last year. Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State. I think he's that solid lunch pail guy. Watching him at Ohio State was just so. He reminds me of I hate saying the word, comparing it to them, but he reminds me of like a Luke Kuechly type linebacker, Dan. He puts his head in there. He's physical. He's smart. He'll do whatever it takes to, make the play. I can see him honestly being a starter by week 5 if one of these outside linebackers, fall off a little bit, Dan.
Yeah, Spillane.
That's who I'm thinking. Robert Spillane is probably going to be the guy that he overtakes. I think he's on a short leash.
And he wasn't bad last year either.
Exactly. And, Pierce is that defensive guy, Dan. That's his natural position, that linebacker spot. So he knows that linebacker game. And I think he sees that in Eichenberg. But I think you're going to give the nod to a Spillane from last year, just like in the process of the quarterback here, Aiden O'Connell versus a Minshew. I think you've earned the right until you've been beaten, Dan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I don't know. What do you think their record's going to be this year, Dan? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
7-10.
7-10.
6-11, maybe.
I mean, they play the same schedule that everybody else has, basically. So, man,
I'm at too tough. They do play the Chargers, Baltimore, Carolina, Cleveland, Denver.
Okay.
Pittsburgh, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Bengals, Miami, Denver, Kansas City, Tampa, Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and then the Chargers.
Wow. I think 7 is a little bit too high on my board, Dan. I'm
6
probably
and
going
11. 6. Yeah, I'm gonna say
yeah.
6 and 11.
You know what? I'm agree with you. I'm going to go 6 and 11 here. Honestly, I mean, God, I mean, you got Minshew mania maybe, but Minshew mania is probably going to die in week 5 because you might come out 1-4, Dan. Honestly, you know what I mean? They might be saying, Aiden O'Connell mania or some crap like that because that's scheduled, dude. Oh my
I
God.
can see it beating Carolina, but I think Cleveland will be all right.
I mean, I think you
Baltimore will
can
be
beat.
good.
Yeah, I think you can beat Cleveland. I think you can
Chargers will
probably
be better.
Denver. You're going to get that game. That's twice right there. So maybe that's if you sweep them, that's 2. You beat
Steelers,
Carolina. You're not beating Steelers. I mean, where's that game at, Dan? Is that home? Is
it's
this at
home.
Pittsburgh is different on the road though too.
The
They are different.
Rams, the Chiefs, and the Bengals, and Miami. That's a tough little stretch right there. Then Denver, then Kansas City. That's a tough stretch right there.
Yeah, division games. Oh God, you know what, Dan? I'm going to go 6-11.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really the
Jeez.
Baltimore's tough, and then the middle of their schedule is really hard.
Oh God, 6. Yeah, I'm going to go 6-11. I think it's going to be.
Uh,
Damn,
yeah, Atlanta, Jacksonville, the Saints, and the Chargers. That's not terrible. That's the last part of their schedule.
But man, these division games. I mean, the out of conference is the worst part for them, Dan. Honestly,
Yep.
man. All right, let's move on to another team here, Dan. And Mal, back-to-back Super Bowl champs. We got to talk about them. My God, the Kansas City Chiefs, Dan. I mean, where do we start, Dan? Of course, we have to give proper kudos to Patrick Mahomes, the magician, Dan. I mean, Dan, we talked about it last year. When we did the show, our Pick'em show.
Yeah, Greenlaw not being in the game kind of helped. But
Yeah,
that's what
that
he had
did.
to do.
He did. I mean, take what they give you. He did perform, Dan. But Dan, last year we talked about the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, when they're home, they're so tough to beat in the playoffs. Last year, Dan, they didn't get home field advantage. They were road warriors the entire time, Dan. They
Yep.
played all the way to the Super Bowl. They flipped that script, Dan. So the light switch came on. They flipped it. Dan, what is it with this team that gets there, Dan? Is it Patrick Mahomes? Is it Andy Reid? What is it?
It's both. They're well coached also.
Agreed.
They're well coached, and it's Mahomes also, obviously.
True.
And
Well,
I
let's
think
talk.
they're well coached.
Dan, you know what the funny thing is? We talk about how fast this team is. You lose Tyreek Hill 2 years ago. How did they really replace him? They went to the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl without him. This year, they got faster, Dan. We talked about this guy in our draft. Remember I told you what I think Xavier Worthy goes here because he is the fastest really guy in this draft, and that's what Andy Reid wants. Speed. Xavier Worthy.
It's a great pick, but he's only 165 pounds. So let's see if he doesn't get destroyed, because that's pretty small.
That is his only
Hill is
doubt.
like 200 pounds at least.
Yeah, but Dan, I mean, sometimes
But he is fast.
You can't hit what you can't catch, right? And that's what I guess they're thinking, right?
He's fast, but how tough is he? Like that's the thing. Like, he's really fast. But you see a lot of guys that are fast as hell come to the NFL, and but he has Mahomes to throw him the ball.
And you know what the crazy? You say that two things, Dan. You say Mahomes too. He doesn't throw behind you. He always leads the wide receiver, and he never leaves his wide receivers out to dry, Dan. Put him in a bad situation where you catch the ball, you're getting lit up right away. He doesn't do that, number one. But when he played at Texas, Xavier Worthy, I never seen him get lit up, Dan, because they couldn't catch him. All his balls were deep throws.
Yeah, but they also had they had another guy they threw to. What's the other guy's name? I forget his name.
I'm drawing a blank on that one. Oh goodness, I forgot already, Dan. Jeez, the other wide. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, you couldn't touch him, but
exactly.
This is the NFL. The NFL is faster and quicker and tougher.
And with Andy Reid's offense, Dan, you are called to run slant up the middle, right across the middle in that dead zone where you're going to get lit up so many times, and that's going to be the thing too, where once he takes that first lick across the middle, I want to see him get up and shake it off and say,
I think he needs to put on like 10 or 15 pounds.
I agree. I agree.
165 is.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty small, but he'll probably be effective. Andy Reid
What?
knows how to run an offense.
How do you think about Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown coming over? Another speedster, Dan.
I think it's a good signing. I don't see why not if he can play well, but he hasn't really had a good season yet.
Yeah, coming
Well,
from
he had a good
Oklahoma.
season in Baltimore, but then the past two he hasn't had been very.
Right.
He's been all right, but I think it's a good signing
Yeah, I
for
think
them.
this is the lightest wide receiver starting two that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Marquise Brown weighs about 170. That's giving him
180.
generous.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you have Xavier Worthy being under, 170. That's a light wide receiver unit. Speed, yes, I get. But the guy that I think should be probably starting with Sky Moore. I love Sky Moore. Another light guy too, Dan. Another light guy as well.
Yeah, I like Sky Moore. They took him, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he was a high draft pick with them too. How do you feel about Kadarius Toney?
He's not gonna do nothing.
Dan, he made a hell of a play last year.
He did make a hell of a play. He had like a punt return or something. Also, I thought.
Well, remember he
Or was
scored
that
that
the
when
year
he scored that
before?
touchdown. He scored that touchdown in the Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
yeah, the easy touchdown. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
the Tom and Jerry reverse scat. Yeah,
Well,
that one.
Kadarius Toney, it's more his mental.
Agree.
Is he gonna act like an idiot or is he gonna be mature? I still think it wasn't a bad idea to trade him. So,
I mean, yeah, I get that. I mean, it's.
but if Kadarius Toney is more mature and it's possible he'll probably play a good amount. He'll probably play more maybe. We'll see.
How do
He
you feel
was
about their
effective in
backup?
his playoffs.
Agree. How do you feel about their backup,
Wentz,
Carson Wentz? I mean, solid. I mean, as a backup, I
I
think.
mean, in that offense, I think he'd be all right. He wouldn't be no Mahomes,
No,
but I
no.
think he'd be okay.
To me, I don't know, Dan. I always use that word, vanilla offense with a certain quarterback. You have Patrick Mahomes. Everything's on the playbook. You can run any play, any given play, anytime. But with Carson Wentz, we know he's not going to run. He's going to be that drop back guy. And it's all going to fall down to the offensive line, which they know they keep Patrick Mahomes upright. That's fine with me. They can do that. But I think
Yeah.
if you give Carson Wentz the time, he could get that ball downfield. But Dan, he's a head case too. Ever since Philadelphia booted him, he's been that head case. Dan, I mean, is that something you can rely on? That getting the playoffs if Patrick Mahomes goes down one or two games? I don't know.
In the playoffs, maybe not, but I think if you had to play him in the regular season a couple of games, I think they could get by depending on who they're playing.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about their defense. I love their defense, Dan. I think they got George Karlaftis. I love him, Dan. He's a
Karlaftis,
solid
yeah.
Karlaftis. He's a solid defensive end. I love him. Drew Tranquil's going to start now. He's moving up there. Nick Bolton and Chris Jones, man. I'm glad they signed him. He got paid. They had to keep him, Dan. He was the anchor.
Absolutely, they actually had you had no choice but to sign him. You lose him, their defense is different.
And Dan, before they signed him, he came back like week 3 or something like that in last year before they signed him. You could tell between 1 and 2 weeks when he came back, that defense just like picked it up right away with him out there, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think their defense will be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's another team in the NFC on the other side that's kind of a complete team on both sides of the ball. I like Tranquil too.
I love Drew Tranquil. I mean, he's a solid linebacker. He came from Notre Dame. Watched him play. Finally, he's playing a heads-up ball. He's a solid piece. They're not the name guy, but he's a role player. Dan, he comes in, does his job. I like Justin Reed at safety too. I love him. Trent McDuffie's a solid corner too, Dan. What they picked up him. He's solid. Now, my question mark is Joshua Williams, their other right side corner. I really haven't seen him play that much. I did watch him, but I think he's going to be the one who gets picked on.
Probably, I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
He is 6'3", though.
He is solid. He's big. He's a big guy. He's definitely big.
He has some height, but I think that's probably maybe the weak point in their defense. But their front is where it's at.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got bookends.
Front and their linebackers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, the great thing is, Carlitos plays on the left side, and then you have Chris Jones on the right side. That's solid to me. Mike Dana, what do you know about him?
Not much, to be honest.
Me either. I got to go back and look some tape on him because the name I know, of course, but I just don't know what his gameplay is. He's another addition too.
He had
so we'll see
6.5 sacks last year.
Did he? Okay, okay, okay. I gotta go back and watch the film on him, so I don't want to say anything. Got a couple comments here. Eddie's checking in. Eddie says Paul, Danny. Eileen
What's
says
up, Eddie?
Eddie. He says stars. Here's a question. So Hollywood Brown got hurt. Now he is questionable. That's all I know. I don't know what the
It's
injury is.
questionable, and usually questionable means you're playing.
Well, do you think he's going to play? I
Typically,
mean, it's preseason game too. Are you going to play him, Dan? Because it's the Diva League. Starters don't get in.
not if he's not if he's not 100%.
Agree.
Um,
Agree.
but teams have a different strategy the second week of preseason.
That is true. That is true. The latest on
I don't
him
think so.
is well, he's hurt. He's expected to miss 4. Oh wow, I didn't even see that. Okay, here we go. He's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks to a
Doubtful. Yeah.
stem valvular injury suffered during Kansas City's pregame. Oh, 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, all right. Well, then that's going to bring Sky Moore in, Dan. You
Yep.
know, I
And
mean, you're not
Sky
going to miss
Moore
a
and
beat.
Tony, both of them will play then.
Yeah, you're not going to miss a
They're
beat. I
both
mean, Sky Moore.
similar.
Yeah, Sky Moore's a fast guy. He started a couple games last year. He's that burner too, so they're fine. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be okay. You know, and plus you have Miko Hardman too. He's another white guy that can get outside too.
It says
Scat
Tony was an idiot in college.
Well, he guess he didn't learn, did he, Dan?
No.
He didn't learn. All right, Dan. Let's wrap this up. You know what, Dan? We have 2 divisions to talk about real quick. Next week, Dan, we got to talk about 2 powerhouse divisions, Dan. We got to talk about the AFC North and, of course, our division, Dan, the NFC East.
Yep.
And then we're done, Dan. And then we are done. We went through every division, Dan.
Yes.
Every division. So, what are you looking for with your team, Dan? I mean, coming into this week, I know you have a preseason game this weekend. What are you looking for from week 1 to week 2, Dan? What is Dan looking for?
I'd like to see their offense, their starting offense. I know that Neighbors got hurt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if he's going to play. I don't know if you want to risk that.
Did your heart drop, Dan, when you seen that?
Yeah, I've heard it's not serious, though. I've heard it's minor.
I just heard it's a mild ankle sprain, so I think he's okay.
Yeah, if it's not a high ankle sprain or something like that, then fine. But I would like to see their starting offensive line, what unit they use. A little bit of Burns. To see how he does.
Right.
But really the offensive line and their offense is really where it's going to be at. And their secondary. I think their pass rush will be okay, but I'm interested to see what group he's going to use, because it's going to be Burns and Thibodeau on each side, Dexter Lawrence, and then you have Okirike, and then you have God, I can't remember his name at the moment. It's slipping my mind for some reason.
What position was it?
McFadden.
Oh, Micah McFadden. Yeah.
Yeah, they have Ojulari listed here, but
what happened to Tyron Tracy?
Tyron Tracy Jr.
Yeah, running back. What happened to him? I heard he's injured.
He has an ankle.
Oh, an ankle
he
too.
Resumed, running and cutting with trainers on the sidelines on Thursday today.
Okay. Because I know you talked about Turbo. I know you talked about him when we talked about your Giants.
He looked good. Dante Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Dante Miller had a hamstring, was limited on Tuesday.
Okay.
Drew Lock isn't going to play.
Gotcha.
He's a hip injury. Slade's questionable. Neighbors is not questionable or anything here. So,
Yeah, do you want him in there, Dan? I mean,
not if it's a risk, no.
Yeah, that's your franchise player, Dan. I think he's got to sit out regardless of whatever. Even if he says he's 100%, Dan, that's your franchise.
Yeah, you can't really risk him having a further injury or hurting his ankle more.
Agree.
But I like to see Joe Jones play their offensive line. Singletary. But the offensive line is probably what I'm focused on the most. It's Illuminor, Van Roten, John Michael Smith, Runyon, and Thomas.
Okay. You're pretty much
Runyon listed on the left side, which I like.
Yeah, I think you're in the same boat as I am. That's with the Cowboys. I want to look at the offensive line because, of course, you're not going to get the starters. Chuma Doga went out last week with an injury. He's out for a while. Then you bring in Tyler Guyton. He has to play that. And now Cooper Beebe is actually battling for the one position at center. Yeah. So I want to see that offensive line because and the defensive line. That's what, to me, is the backup position right now, Dan. To me, I think we're bad on defensive side of the ball. Not starter-wise, backup-wise, because rotations, we have nobody. It was just when you have Boston Scott, 150-pound Boston Scott, run all over the defensive line, that just tells you something last week. And to me, it's like, okay, it's you want to address position, but you didn't address it. You went and got Nealon, which is a defensive end, but he's sitting behind DeMarcus Lawrence. So it kind of didn't make sense to me where you didn't draft the player that you needed to fill the spot. You know what I mean?
I mean, actually, I know it's a depth chart, but they have Burns as the left defensive end in this depth chart.
Really?
But it's just a depth chart. It's
Yeah,
not official.
Okay. All right. Well, Dan, you ready to get out of here, man?
Yep.
When do you on again, Dan?
Tomorrow at 8.
You're on tomorrow at 8. Big
Yes.
Blue Power. What's the topics tomorrow, Dan? Anything that we can tease them with?
Just looking forward to the Texans game and talk about the injuries a little bit, and and that's about it. I mean, that's really all there is to talk about. We're in preseason, so
exactly. Yeah, it's
depth chart stuff, like that type of stuff. But we'll talk about some of the injuries. Looking forward to seeing the offense. The offensive line. The secondary, like more of the concern areas. I think their defense up front will be fine.
I agree.
So,
guys, here's our schedule for the rest of the week, because I know it's already Thursday. Dan and I are on tonight at 6 p.m. Tomorrow, you got the Big Blue Power at 8 o'clock. And then tomorrow night, Atomic Drop Podcast at 10:30, talking about WWE Wrestling. So make sure you subscribe. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Out of the Box Sports. We're everywhere. Please like, share, subscribe to us out there. And this way you get notifications of new shows coming next week. We do have one new show coming next week. I'm, really stoked about this one. It is a new wrestling show called The Part-Time Marks with Kurt McGirt and Black Lightning. They're going to be giving you WWE and also NXT and SmackDown. So that show's going to be coming next Tuesday night. So always stay tuned to Out of the Box Sports Entertainment. We have new shows coming. This way, if you subscribe, you get that notification button for all new shows coming up. So, Dan, it is time to get out of here once again, brother.
Yes, it is.
All right. My name is Paul Spencer. That is Dan Connor. This is the NFL Weekly Pick'em Show. We'll be back next week talking about the NFC East and the AFC North, two powerhouse divisions. So until then, we'll see you next week. Until everybody, have a great night, and hopefully your team doesn't get injured, and hopefully they live up to your expectations. So we'll see you next week.
Yep. Take care, everybody.
Later.